Prasades, Assistant Professor from the Department of Mechanical Engineering, MIT Mysore. Today, I am here to teach the subject Elements of Mechanical Engineering. Under that, the Module 3 Internal Combustion Engine. So, before going to the what is meant by the internal combustion engine, first we need to understand where we are using the internal combustion engine. So, internal combustion engine, it is one of the main component in automobile. So, in the automobile, the engine it is mainly used to propel the vehicle from one place to the other place. That means in order to move the vehicle from one distance to the other distance, the engine it is very much necessary. Okay, so before going to the actual internal combustion engine, first we need to understand what is meant by the engine. So before that, in today's class, the contents it is regarding to the introduction to the internal combustion engine. Later that, what are the types of the engine, then working principle of internal combustion engine, classification of IC engine, components of IC engine and IC engine terminology. Okay, so first we are starting with what is meant by the engine. Okay, engine is a device which converts the chemical energy of the fuel into heat energy, and by utilizing this heat energy, it is used to convert into the useful mechanical work in the form of rotation of the shaft. So this is called an engine. Okay, all right. The definition of an engine: engine, it is a device which converts chemical energy of a fuel into heat energy, and utilizing this heat energy to perform useful mechanical work in the form of rotation of a shaft. Okay, that means we can compare now the working of an engine into the automobile. Okay, so in the automobile, internal combustion engine is there. So inside the internal combustion engine, either petrol or diesel can be burned. Once it burns, it develops the heat energy. That heat energy can be used to run the crankshaft. That crankshaft it is used to drive the various parts of the vehicle. So that is called as an application of internal combustion engine. Okay, so engine is a device which converts chemical energy of a fuel into heat energy, and utilizing this heat energy to perform useful mechanical work in the form of rotation of the shaft, that is called as an engine. Okay, so next it is called what is meant by the types of the engine. So there are two different types of an engine. The one it is called external combustion engine, other one it is called internal combustion engine. Okay, so first one it is called external combustion engine, second one it is called internal combustion engine. So based on the where fuel is burning, whether it is inside or outside the engine cylinder, so engine it is classified into two types. The one it is called external combustion engine, other one it is called internal combustion engine. Okay, so before going to the external combustion engine and internal combustion engine, first we need to understand what is meant by the fuel. So fuel is a chemical substance which contain carbon and hydrogen as the main combustible element. On burning the fuel, it liberates a lot of energy in the form of heat. That heat energy it is very much essential in order to convert into the mechanical work in the form of rotation of the shaft. There are various kinds of fuels, so that is called solid fuel, liquid fuel, gaseous fuel. If you are considering the solid fuel, the main fuel we are considering it is called coal. Similarly, if you are considering the liquid fuel, the main fuels we are considering it is called petrol and the diesel. Okay. Similarly, if you are considering the gaseous fuel, it is called as biogas and a natural gas. So based on that, the engines are classified. So that is called external combustion engine and internal combustion engine. So first one, what is meant by the external combustion engine? So external combustion engine means here combustion of the fuel, takes place outside the engine cylinder. Okay, here combustion of the fuel takes place outside the engine cylinder. Observe here, so this is called cylinder and this is called piston, this is called connecting rod, this one it is called crank, and this called crankshaft. Okay, here the combustion of the fuel takes place outside the engine cylinder. So in case of the external combustion engine, the fuel it is called as the coal. Okay, this coal it is used to heat the water and converting it to the steam. Okay, here the coal it is used to convert the water into the steam. The steam then flows and then enters inside the engine cylinder, where it is expands and exerts large force on this movable component called piston. Then this piston moves from top to the bottom and transfers its motion to the crankshaft through these intermediate mechanisms like connecting rod and a crank. Okay, this is called the working of external combustion engine. I repeat, external combustion engine, here combustion of the fuel takes place outside the engine cylinder. Observe here, this is the engine cylinder and the combustion of coal takes place outside. So this combustion of the coal, it liberates the heat energy. That heat energy it is used to convert the water into the steam. So in the steam, availability of energy it is nothing but heat energy. Okay, this steam expands and exerts the large force on the movable component called piston, and the piston is moved from top dead center to the bottom dead center and transfers its motion to the crankshaft through the intermediate mechanisms called connecting rod and a crank. So this is called as the working of external combustion engine. Okay, so here what is the fuel? The fuel it is used in case of the external combustion engine, it is called coal as well as boiling of water. Okay, the coal and the boiling of water develops the steam. This is called as the fuel in case of the external combustion engine. Next, second one, what is mean by the internal combustion engine? Very simple, the internal combustion engine means we need to just change the word. Here combustion of the fuel takes place inside the engine cylinder. Okay, here combustion of the fuel takes place inside the engine cylinder. Observe here, so this is the cylinder now. Okay, so this is the piston, this is the connecting rod, this is the crank, this is the crankshaft. Okay, so in case of the internal combustion engine, here combustion of the fuel takes place inside the engine cylinder. The kind of fuel it is used in case of the internal combustion engine, it is called either petrol or diesel. Okay, so due to the combustion of the fuel takes place inside the engine cylinder, again it develops the heat energy. That heat energy it is nothing but through hot gases. Those hot gases expands and exerts large force on this movable component called piston. Once the piston it is moved from top dead center to the bottom dead center, it transfers its motion from piston to the crankshaft through connecting rod and the crank. Okay, so this is the working of internal combustion engine. So the working and the working principle both are explained in the internal combustion engine. Okay, then what are the advantages of internal combustion engine over the external combustion engine? So advantages like, first one, it is easy starting. Okay, highly efficient compared to external combustion engine. Then good compactness. Okay, then light in weight and portable. Okay, so internal combustion engine can be take place one place to another place, that is called portable. So these are the some of the advantages of internal combustion engine over external combustion engine. Okay, I repeat. So first we have started with what is meant by the engine. Engine is a device which converts chemical energy of a fuel into heat energy and utilizing this heat energy to perform useful mechanical work in the form of rotation of the shaft. And the engine it is usually placed in the automobile in order to propel the vehicle from one place to the another place. Okay, so then Here what is mean by the fuel? The fuel, it is nothing but it's a chemical substance which contain carbon and hydrogen as the main combustible element. On burning, which develops a lot of energy in the form of heat. Okay, there are three different types of fuel: solid fuel, liquid fuel and gaseous fuel. In case of the solid fuel, we are using, it is called coal. In case of liquid fuel, it is basically it is used for petrol and diesel. Okay, then there are two types of engine. The one, it is called external combustion engine, other one it is called internal combustion engine. What is mean by external combustion engine? Here the combustion of the fuel takes place outside the engine cylinder. Okay, observe here, combustion of the fuel, it is takes place outside the engine cylinder. Like coal, the coal, it is used to heat the water and convert it into the steam. The energy available in case of the steam, it is called heat energy. This heat energy of the steam expands and exerts large force on the movable component called piston. From the piston, motion it is transferred to the crankshaft through crank as well as the connecting rod. Okay, so this is the working of external combustion engine. Similarly, other one, it is called internal combustion engine. The internal combustion engine, the popularly it is known as IC engine. Okay, here the main parts are like engine cylinder, piston, connecting rod, crank, crankshaft, inlet valve, exhaust valve as well as the igniter. Okay, so what is the difference? In case of the internal combustion engine, here combustion of the fuel takes place inside the engine cylinder. Once the combustion of the fuel takes place inside the engine cylinder, heat energy is going to develop. That heat energy, it is nothing but hot gases. That hot gases expands and exerts the large force on the movable component called piston, and the piston, it is moved from top dead center to the bottom dead center and transfers its motion from piston to the crankshaft through connecting rod. Okay, so what are the advantages of internal combustion engine over the external combustion engine? First one, it is called easy starting. Second one, highly efficient, good compactness, light in weight as well as portable application compared to external combustion engine. In continuation with today's class, next we need to discuss another three topics. It is called classification of an IC engine. Next, it is called the components of an IC engine and IC engine terminology. So before going to the classification of an IC engine, again we need to recall what is meant by the engine. Engine is a device which converts chemical energy of the fuel into heat energy. By utilizing this heat energy, is used to perform useful mechanical work in the form of rotation of the shaft. And engine, it is basically classified into two types. The one, it is called internal combustion engine, another one is called external combustion engine. In case of the external combustion engine, here combustion of the fuel takes place outside the engine cylinder, and in case of the internal combustion engine, the combustion of the fuel takes place inside the engine cylinder. Okay, so in the classification IC engine, very first part, it is called based on the thermodynamic cycle. Okay, so internal combustion engines are basically classified based on the different parameters, like based on the thermodynamic cycle, the number of stroke, type of fuel used, method of ignition, number of cylinders, based on the position, how the engineer it is keeping inside the automobile, as well as the method of cooling it is used in the automobile system. Okay, under that very first one, it is called based on the thermodynamic cycle. So based on the thermodynamic cycle, IC engines are further classified into three types. The one, it is called Otto cycle, second one, it is called diesel cycle, and third one, it is called dual cycle. Okay, so what is mean by the Otto cycle? Okay, so in case of the Otto cycle, the combustion of fuel takes place at a constant volume, then it is called as the Otto cycle. Second one, it is called diesel cycle. If the combustion of the fuel takes place inside the engine cylinder at a constant pressure, then it is called as the diesel cycle. Similarly, dual cycle. In case of the dual cycle, here combustion of the fuel takes place inside the engine cylinder both at a constant pressure and a constant volume, then it is called dual cycle. Okay, so I repeat, what is mean by the Otto cycle? Here the combustion of the fuel takes place inside the engine cylinder at a constant volume, then it is called Otto cycle. If the combustion of the fuel takes place inside the engine cylinder at a constant pressure, then it is called diesel cycle. And the combustion of the fuel takes place inside the engine cylinder both at a constant volume and a constant pressure, then it is called dual cycle. Okay, second one, it is called based on the number of strokes. Okay, based on the number of strokes, here IC engines are further classified into two types. The one, it is called 4-stroke engine, Second one, it is called two-stroke engine. Okay, so what is mean by the four-stroke engine? Okay, if the combustion of the fuel, what is mean by the four-stroke engine? Here, the working cycle completed inside the engine cylinder based on the four different strokes, then it is called four-stroke IC engine. Okay, what are the four different strokes of an IC engine? That is called suction stroke, compression stroke, power stroke, and exhaust stroke. What happens during the suction stroke? During the suction stroke, the fresh charge of air or air petrol mixture, it is enters into the engine cylinder through inlet valve. Similarly, what happens during the compression stroke? During the compression stroke, here the compression of air and the petrol mixture, it is going to take place inside the engine cylinder. The next, third one, it is called power stroke. During the power stroke, here the combustion of fuel is going to take place. Due to the combustion, high amount of energy is going to liberated, that pushes the piston from top dead center to the bottom dead center at higher rate. Okay, similarly, exhaust stroke. During the exhaust stroke, whatever the burnt gases present inside the engine cylinder should be go out through the exhaust valve. So this is called as the four different strokes. So the working of the four different strokes of an IC engine we can learn once we coming to the working of four-stroke petrol engine and diesel engine. Okay, next, what is meant by the two-stroke engine? So in case of the two-stroke engine, your working cycle, it is completed only two different strokes of the engine, that is called as the two-stroke engine. Okay, what are the two different strokes? That is called upward stroke as well as the downward stroke. Okay, so this is called based on the number of strokes. Next, third one, based on the type of the fuel used. Okay, so based on the type of the fuel used, IC engines are further classified into petrol engine, diesel engine, biogas or natural gas engines, and fourth one, bi-fuel engines. Okay, so based on the type of fuel used, again internal combustion engines are classified into four different types. Okay, petrol engine, if the type of fuel used in the internal combustion engine is petrol, then it is called petrol engine. If the type of fuel is used in case of the internal combustion engine, it is diesel, then it is called diesel engine. If the type of fuel is used in the engine, it is either biogas or a natural gas like CNG, then it is called biogas or natural gas engine. If the type of fuel is used in the IC engine, it is a mixture of two fuels, then it is called bi-fuel engines. Okay, so this is the third one, that is called based on the type of fuel used. Fourth one, based on the method of ignition. Okay, based on the method of ignition, internal combustion engines are again classified into two types. The one, it is called spark ignition engine. Okay, other one, it is called compression ignition engine. Okay, spark ignition engine, other one, it is called compression ignition engine. So in case of the spark ignition engine, here igniter it is used, it is called as the spark plug. Okay, so this spark plug helps to burn the air fuel mixture present inside the engine cylinder. Then second one, it is called compression ignition engine. In case of the compression ignition engine, here the igniter it is used, it is called as the fuel injector. Once the diesel it is sprayed inside the engine cylinder, it is get contact with the compressed air, hence the high amount of energy it is liberated in the form of heat in case of the compression ignition engine. Next, based on the number of cylinder, there are two different types, that is called single cylinder IC engines and multi-cylinder IC engines. Okay, single cylinder IC engines and a multi-cylinder IC engine. In application, the single cylinder engines like motorcycles, bike, this is all contains the single cylinder IC engines. Then multi-cylinder IC engines, it is like nothing but it is a four-wheeler vehicles as well as truck, tippers, it is all considered as the multi-cylinder engines. Next, sixth one, based on the position. Okay, so based on the position, again classified into four different types, that is called engines can be placed vertical, horizontal, V and radial engines. So in application, So vertical cylinders are usually placed in the automobiles like two-wheelers as well as in the four-wheelers, almost in all regular vehicles. Okay, so if the engine cylinders are placed in the horizontal positions, okay, then it is called horizontal cylinder engine. The example, it is called Subaru company. There the cylinders are placed in the horizontal position. Then V engines, here the engines are placed at an angle of 60 degree. That can be used in most of the racing cars and Formula 1 cars. And the radial engines, here all the cylinders are placed in the radial position. It may be 8 cylinders or 12 cylinders that we can see in the helicopters as well as in the aeroplanes. Okay, last one, it is called based on the method of cooling. There are two types of cooling system. The one, it is called air cooling, other one, it is called water cooling. Okay, so cooling of the IC engine, it is very much essential. If the cooling it is done with the help of the atmospheric air, then it is called as the air cooling system. And if the cooling of the IC engines are done with the help of the water, then it is called water cooling system. It is most of in the four-wheeler cars. Okay, this is regarding to the classification of IC engine. I repeat, the IC engines are classified based on the 7 different parameters. First one, it is called thermodynamic cycle. So in case of the thermodynamic cycle, it is further categorized into 3 types. Otto cycle, here combustion of the fuel takes place at constant volume. Diesel cycle, here combustion of the fuel takes place at a constant pressure. Dual cycle, here combustion of the fuel takes place both at a constant volume and a constant pressure. Next, number of strokes. If the working cycle it is completed inside the IC engine with the help of 4 different strokes, then it is called 4-stroke engine, that is called suction, compression, power and exhaust. Second one, if the working cycle of the engine it is done only with the help of the 2 different strokes, then it is called as the 2-stroke engine. Example, upward stroke and downward stroke. Next one, based on the type of fuel used. If the fuel used in case of the engine it is petrol, then it is called petrol engine. If the fuel used in case of the engine it is diesel, then it is called diesel engine. If the fuel used it may be CNG or LPG that are biogas, then it is called biogas or natural gas engines. Then if the fuel used it is the mixture of 2 fuels, then it is called bi-fuel engine. Then fourth one, based on the method of ignition. Again 2 types, the one it is called spark ignition engine, other one it is called compression ignition engine. That means here igniter it is used in case of the engine it is spark plug, then it is called spark ignition engine. If the igniter it is used, it is the fuel injector, then it is called compression ignition engine. Next one, based on the number of cylinder. So normally 2-wheeler vehicles are contains the 1 single cylinder, then it is called single cylinder engines. Then 4-wheelers, then it is contains more than more than 1, that is like 4-cylinder or 6-cylinder, then it is called multi-cylinder engine. Next, based on the position, so engine cylinders can be placed in 4 different positions like vertical, horizontal, V as well as in the radial form. Next, last one it is called based on the method of cooling. There are 2 types, the one it is called air cooling, other one it is called water cooling system. It is called the components of an IC engine. We have already studied the working principle of an IC engine. So in the IC engine, very simple, here the combustion of the fuel is going to take place inside the engine cylinder and converted into mechanical work in the form of rotation of the shaft. And the different types of fuel it is used, it is called either petrol, diesel as well as biogas or natural gas. Okay, so in order to convert that chemical energy of the fuel into mechanical work, so first we need to understand what are the different parts available inside the engine cylinder. Okay, very first part inside the available in the components of an IC engine, it is nothing but cylinder. So what is mean by this cylinder? The cylinder, it is nothing but it is the heart of the engine, okay, inside which the fuel is going to burn and power is going to develop. So due to the combustion of the fuel, the large amount of energy it is going to liberated in the form of heat energy, and in order to withstand this high pressure and high temperature of heat energy, the cylinders are usually made up of mild steel as well as the cast iron. So this is regarding to the first part, it is called as the cylinder. I repeat, what is mean by the cylinder? The cylinder, it is nothing but it is the heart of the engine inside which the fuel is going to burnt and power is going to develop. Due to the combustion of the fuel, the large amount of energy liberated in the form of heat, and in order to withstand very high pressure and high temperature, the cylinder it is usually made up of grey cast iron or mild steel material. Okay, so next one, it is called piston. What is mean by the piston? The piston, it is a movable component and it is going to reciprocate inside the engine cylinder. That means So due to the combustion of fuel inside the engine cylinder, the large amount of energy is going to be liberated in the form of heat, and this heat it also develop in the form of hot gases. Okay, these hot gases are expands and exerts the large force on the movable component called piston. Hence the piston it is going to reciprocate inside the engine cylinder. Okay, the piston is going to reciprocate inside the engine cylinder. Next, third one, it is called as the piston ring. So what is the piston rings? The piston rings are nothing but it is the metallic rings are inserted into the circumferential grooves provided at the top end of the piston. Okay, observe here. So this is the piston, here this is called the top end, this is called the bottom end. Here the piston rings or the metallic rings are inserted into the circumferential grooves provided at the top end of the piston. There are two types of piston ring, the one it is called compression ring, other one it is called oil ring. So what is meant by the compression ring and what is the main function? So the main function of the compression ring is to maintain gas tight joint between the piston as well as the cylinder. Observe here, due to the combustion of the fuel inside the engine cylinder, the burnt gases are produced. These burnt gases are nothing but carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, nitrogen dioxide and sulfur dioxide. If these gases are enters from the combustion chamber into the crankcase, then whatever the engine oil present inside the crankcase, it is going to loses its viscosity, then it will going to damage the entire parts of the automobile or engine. That's why we need to maintain a gas tight joint between the piston as well as the cylinder. Hence the compression ring it is placed at the top end of the piston. Then second one it is called oil ring. Okay, it's the oil ring, it absorbs the excess oil from the various parts of the engine and send it back to the oil sump through oil holes provided in the oil ring. Okay, so this is regarding to the piston ring. Okay, there are three different types of three different rings. In that, first two rings are called as the compression ring and the third one it is called as the oil ring. Next, fourth one, what is meant by the connecting rod? The connecting rod it forms a link between the piston and the crankshaft. Okay, and this piston it connecting rod it contains the two ends. Here the smaller end of the connecting rod it is connected to the piston through the piston pin, and the larger end of the connecting rod it is connected to the crankshaft through crank. Okay, then what is the function of the connecting rod? The main function of the connecting rod is to convert the reciprocating motion of the piston into rotary motion of the crankshaft. So this is called as the connecting rod. I repeat, what is meant by the connecting rod? The connecting rod it forms a link between piston and the crankshaft. Okay, and the smaller end of the connecting rod is connected to the piston through piston pin, and the larger end of the connecting rod it is connected to the crankshaft through crank. Okay, next fifth one it is called crank. So crank it forms a link between connecting rod and a crankshaft. Okay, that means the crank is connected one end to the connecting rod and other end to the crankshaft. So this is regarding to the crank. Then sixth one it is called crankshaft. What is a crankshaft? The crankshaft is a rotating member inside the engine. That means it is used to drive the various other parts of the vehicle. So crankshaft is one of the important part. That means it receives the power from the piston and transfers its motion to the various other parts of the vehicle. Then seventh one, inlet valve and exhaust valve. What is the purpose of using the inlet valve and exhaust valve? Inlet valve and exhaust valves are going to control the movement of air fuel mixture enters into the engine cylinder, and at the same time it also expel out the burnt gases present inside the engine cylinder. Okay, observe here, during the suction stroke inlet valve is open, hence the fresh charge of air petrol mixture from the carburetor it is enters into the engine cylinder through inlet valve. Similarly, during the exhaust stroke exhaust valve is open, then whatever the burnt gases like carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, nitrogen dioxide, sulfur dioxide it is expelled out through this exhaust valve. Then eighth one that is called flywheel. The flywheel it is a heavier wheel, it is mounted on the crankshaft of the engine. That means it stores the energy during the power stroke and supplies the same energy during the other three strokes like suction stroke, compression stroke and exhaust stroke, in order to maintain the uniform rotation of the crankshaft. Okay, next ninth one, crankcase. The crankcase it is nothing but it is the lower part of the engine. it completely encloses the crankshaft. It is also acts as a sump for the lubricating oil. Next, last one, it is called igniter. There are two types of igniter. The one, it is called spark plug. If the engine it is petrol engine, then we are using the spark plug as the igniter. If the engine it is diesel engine, then we are using fuel injector as the igniter. Okay, I repeat, what are the important parts of the IC engine? First one, it is called cylinder. The cylinder, it is the heart of the engine. Here piston is going to reciprocate inside the engine cylinder and the combustion of the fuel is going to take place inside the engine cylinder. Due to the combustion, large amount of energy it is going to liberated in the form of heat, and in order to withstand the high pressure and high temperature, the cylinder it is usually made up of grey cast iron or mild steel material. Second one, piston. The piston, it is a movable component and it is reciprocate inside the engine cylinder, and due to the combustion of the fuel, whatever the power developed, it exerts the force on the piston, and the piston transfers its motion to the crankshaft through intermediate mechanisms like crank and connecting rod. Next, third one, piston ring. The piston ring, it is the metallic rings are inserted into the circumferential grooves provided at the top end of the piston. Okay, there are two different types of piston rings. The one is called compression ring. It maintains the gas tight joint between piston and the cylinder, and the oil ring, it absorbs the excess oil and send it back to the oil sump through holes provided in the oil ring. Next, fourth one, connecting rod. The connecting rod, it forms a link between piston as well as the crankshaft, and the connecting rod contains the two ends. The one, it is called smaller end, it is connected to the piston through piston pin, and the larger end of the connecting rod, it is connected to the crankshaft through crank. Fifth one, a crank, it forms a link between connecting rod and the crankshaft. The crankshaft, it is a rotating member which receives the power due to the reciprocating motion of the piston, and it is used to drive the various other parts of the vehicle. Then inlet valve, it allows the fresh charge of air petrol mixture, it is enters into the engine cylinder during the suction stroke. Similarly, exhaust valve, it expels out the burnt gases present inside the engine cylinder through exhaust valve. Then flywheel, it is a heavier wheel, it is mounted on the crankshaft of the engine. That means it stores the energy during the power stroke and supply the same energy during the other three strokes like suction, compression and exhaust. Crankcase, it is the lower part of the engine and it completely protects the crankshaft as well as it acts as a sump for the lubricating oil. Last one, igniter, two types, spark plug and fuel injector. Okay, next, last topic in today's class, it is called IC engine terminology. So in the IC engine terminology, we are basically containing the 7 different parts. Under that very first one, it is called bore. Okay, what is mean by the bore? And it is denoted by small d. Okay, the bore, it is called it as the inner diameter of the engine cylinder. Okay, it is the inner diameter of the engine cylinder, or it is also called it as the external diameter or outer diameter of the piston. So that is called it as the bore. That means once we are designing the any sort of engine, first we need to understand it. These are the basic components, that is called bore. The bore, it is called it as the inner diameter of the engine cylinder or external diameter of the piston. Then second one, it is called top dead center. Okay, the top dead center, it is also abbreviated as TDC. So what is mean by the top dead center? The top dead center means it is the extreme position of the piston near the cylinder end. Okay, so this is called cylinder end or cylinder head, and this is called crankshaft end. Okay, if the extreme position of the piston near the cylinder end, then it is called as the top dead center and it is abbreviated as BDC. Okay, similarly, if the extreme position of the piston near the crankshaft end, then this is called as the bottom dead center and it is abbreviated as BDEC. Okay, next, fourth one, it is called as the stroke. Okay, and it is abbreviated as L, or it is noted by L. So what is the stroke? Stroke, it is very simple. It is the linear distance traveled by the piston when it is moved from TDC to BDC. That means when the piston it is moved from top dead center to the bottom dead center, whatever the linear distance it is traveled, that is considered as the stroke or stroke length and it is denoted as capital L. Okay, next fifth one, it is called stroke volume and it is denoted as Vs. Then what is meant by the stroke volume? So stroke volume, it is nothing but it is the volume of the piston when the piston it is moved from TDC to BDC, or the distance travelled by the piston when it is moved from TDC to BDC, and whatever the remaining volume it is available inside the engine cylinder, that is called it as the stroke volume. Okay, and it is denoted by Vs. Then sixth one, it is called clearance volume. What is mean by the clearance volume? Very simple, it is the volume of the cylinder above the piston when the piston it is at TDC position. Observe here, it is the volume of the cylinder above the piston when the piston it is at TDC position. This is called clearance volume, that is denoted as Vc. Last one, that is called compression ratio. Compression ratio, it is nothing but total volume by clearance volume. So what is the total volume? That is the combination of Vs plus Vc divided by Vc. Okay, this is called compression ratio. The compression ratio, it is the ratio of total volume by clearance volume. So compression ratio for petrol engine, it is usually ranges from 8:1 to 14:1. Similarly for the diesel engine, it is ranges from 18:1 to 24:1. Okay, I repeat, what are the important things in case of the IC engine terminology? First one, it is called bore. It is called as the inner diameter of the engine cylinder or outer diameter of the piston. Second one, it is called top dead center. It is the extreme position of the piston near the cylinder end, that is called top dead center, and it is abbreviated as TDC. Similarly, if the extreme position of the piston near the crankshaft end, then this is called bottom dead center and it is abbreviated as BDC. Then what is meant by the stroke length? The linear distance travelled by the piston when it is moved from TDC to BDC, that is called stroke length. Next, fifth one, stroke volume. The stroke volume, it is nothing but the volume of the cylinder when it is moved from TDC to BDC, whatever it is covered, that is called it as the stroke volume. Then clearance volume, it is the volume of the cylinder above the piston when it is at TDC position, then it is called clearance volume. Last one, compression ratio, it is the ratio of total volume by clearance volume. The total volume, it is nothing but both the stroke volume and the clearance volume. To the clearance volume, it is called it as the compression ratio. The compression ratio for petrol engine, it is usually ranges from 8:1 to 14:1, and for the diesel engine it is 18:1 to 24:1. Thank you.